We're three docs talking about the breakdown. Okay, we are back again in the studio for another episode of the Breakdown podcast. It's great to have the three docs around the table, Dr. Krissy Ladner, Dr. John Heiss, and Dr. Luigi Gratton. And today we're talking carbohydrates. Now, we've done carbohydrates, and we like to talk about sugar and carbs offline, but in the context of performance in sport, I thought it would be a really cool topic to just discuss carbs. We can talk a little bit about the evolution, the recommendations in athletes. I know you both have counseled and worked with athletes. You are both athletes, so you probably have your own personal recommendations. But can we just get into carbs and athletes? John, maybe I'll kick it off with you. As the endurance cyclist in the house, the guy who goes on these 100-mile plus bike rides, the importance of carbs in terms of performance. Can you give us a basic overview?
Oh, yeah. Let's see. Where do we start?
You could do it. Give the car, the gasoline, any analogy you want to give to
carbs
the audience.
Carbs is my favorite topic in sport. Carbs, they're an essential nutrient. It's the body's preferred fuel. And during exercise, this is the high octane jet fuel. Right. Anything else, fat, protein, it can be used by the body, but it's not the preferred source.
Not helping.
And as intensities go up, it's an increased reliance on carbohydrate fuel. So this is the key to performance for any performance individual, whether it's gym, endurance athlete, let's say team sports like soccer, or, I've worked with a lot of motorsports guys. Those guys are actually burning tons of carbs for fuel. So
this is a great point, Krissy. I'll come to you. But so whether, as John was saying, whether it's him on this 100-mile bike race, whatever, all these crazy things that he does, or if it's doing a high rocks competition, so these girls and guys who are kind of jacked, doing a little bit of strength, power, endurance, or if it's a ballet dancer doing an extended thing, or a rower, or a power lifter, they're relying on carbohydrates. That's the point. So you can't just have a bunch of corn oil for fuel. You can't just have a bunch of pure protein for fuel. Carbs is the key. So I like that, the jet fuel. Okay. In terms of you, what about Krissy, in terms of recommendations, you working with pro athletes in so many different settings, where do carbs fit in? I know it's a big question, but maybe, give us some color commentary on carbs.
All day, every day. Yeah. Gotta have carbs. Yes, I love talking about this too because of the myth out there. Carbs are bad, or they help you gain weight, whatever it be. And to mirror John, absolutely number one fuel source, regardless of your sport. So if you're primarily a strength trainer or endurance or somewhere in between, doesn't matter. Even if you aren't an athlete, your body is primarily running on carbs, and it's only going to intensify when you're doing a sport. So we really want to look at the output and match your carbs to that. I keep thinking in grams per kilogram. That's just where my math goes.
Yeah, go for it.
But
Talk
John can help mirror that in a different way. Rough averages, of course, you can go below or above, but it's going to be about anywhere from 5 to 12 grams per kilogram on
5 to 12 grams per kilogram. Okay.
Yeah. On any given day. So that's going to change, what we call periodized. You're going to change your daily intake. It's not going to be a crazy change, but depending on the type of output you do. So when I work with an athlete, we'll look at their training schedule and we'll say, okay, on this day, you are recovering or prepping for competition, or you're doing a strength training, and we'll match that to make sure the body has its top stores of carbohydrates so that it can act efficiently without having too little or too much. And so you really have to individualize that. But I know, John, you might think of that differently. How does that go?
No, that's kind of how I think about it. I mean, grams per kilo is a good number. If you convert to grams, like a super low carb diet would be like 100 grams in a day. And, for the high end, Olympic cyclists, endurance out, there might be 1,000 grams per day. So that's kind of your range, but most people fall into like a couple 100 grams in a day to like many 100 grams in a day. That's kind of maybe your working window. But I'm kind of thinking maybe for this, we talk a little bit about, let's say you're a casual gym goer who's going to the gym after work. He's wants gains in the gym, right? He's only there maybe 3 days a week, but he's not professional. And then we can kind of move from a little more of a high intensity gym competition person into endurance sports. I think that'll kind of paint this idea of a picture of moving through that spectrum of carbohydrate intake.
That's great. I think one of the things funny, before we started the episode, we were talking about, so I want people to understand, you said, the jet fuel, right? I think that's really important. this powers the body in every type of exercise. You got into the recommendations, whether it's like about, let's say I'm 100 kgs. So I'm going to need about, let's say, about 500, maybe not 1,000. To John's points, can be a little higher. But that'll give me a range. So several hundred, as you just said. I think it's important for the audience to understand carbs, when you eat them, they are stored in basically two areas of the body. It's stored in the liver as glycogen, and then in the skeletal muscle, right? So when we store these areas of carbohydrate, they are used for performance. So obviously, if I'm drinking a wonderful, sugary beverage while I'm exercising, or a carbohydrate beverage, I'm going to use that, but I'm also tapping into the glycogen in my liver and the glycogen in my muscle tissue, right? So just so we can have the audience, we're on the same page. Now there is, I just want to touch on this whole idea of supercompensation, as people call carbo loading, because we were kind of like saying, does it really do anything for someone who's like, if I'm going to go run a 10K on a Saturday, like, does it matter if I have pasta? So just so people understand, there's two areas where these carbohydrates are stored. The liver doesn't really stretch much, so to speak, but if you're actually trained, you can increase the size of your gas tank, right, in your muscle tissue. And that's the idea of supercompensation or carbohydrate loading. But John, to your point, because we're talking offline, if I'm going to go run a 10K on the weekend and I'm not some superstar athlete, does it really matter if I load up on a massive bowl of pasta and rice the night before? Is it going to really do anything for me?
Sorry.
Or am I just carrying around a bunch of like extra weight?
Oh, sorry. I got
That's all right.
I'll
go to Krissy on this one while you get your water. It's cool. We're just podcasting and chilling. So, like, the idea of supercompensation, does it really matter if I'm like not an elite athlete, or I'm, this guy's out riding 100 miles and he's a pretty good cyclist, but for the average Joe, does it really do anything? Or is it,
It's more about consistency day to day. So making sure that you are consistently eating carbohydrates, because we are consistently using them. It's kind of like if you had a glass of water and you're pouring water into it, but there was a hole in it, like it's coming out and it's going in. So you kind of want the rate of you pouring it in as to it coming out, right? So that it kind of stays saturated. And when you exercise, we're depleting those glycogen stores. And there's only so much we can store. And although you can with training over time, but we're thinking more like elite athletes training to get higher glycogen stores, and it's still not going to be that much more. So super compensating in the sense of having a big bowl of pasta the night before, it's not going to be as efficient as it would be if you just eat enough carbohydrates day to day.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And don't endurance athletes just have this ability anyway. They're just always going to have a bigger gas tank, basically, right? Compared to someone who's the same sort of like frame.
I think the misstep though is actually the other end of the equation, is where like this casual gym person goes to the gym after workout. He's probably, or she is, well, I want to gain some muscle. I'm trying to lose a little bit of weight. And they're kind of subjected to this vilification of carbohydrates from social media.
Oh yeah, which is everywhere.
They're probably getting inadequate amount of carbohydrates, which is going to lead to maybe a little feelings of tiredness and like not enough energy. The thing is, the body runs on carbohydrates. So even if they don't eat carbohydrates, the body needs to convert whatever they're eating into carbs. So it will take protein and will convert it into carbs. It'll take fat and it's going to use that carbon as an energy source. So even if you don't eat the carbs, your body is going to do whatever it takes to like convert it into glucose for energy.
That's interesting.
So that's why I think like that. The person go to the gym, you don't eat a lot of carbs, but don't go too crazy and get into like 100 gram per day territory where you're just such a low percentage of your calories are coming from carbs, because it's just, you're going to shortchange performance and gains to the gym, let's say.
Absolutely.
I think that's really interesting, because I know we were talking offline and John made a great point. I never thought about this, and maybe you see this in clinical practice, but he was saying that endurance athletes, especially the high-level endurance athletes, are probably protein deficient, and then they go in hard on the carbs, because it's like the carbs all day for the jet fuel. Whereas the gym going person that you're going, Sally or Joe, is probably super, like restrictive on the carbs, and they're really going in high on the protein. So it's kind of interesting, because that's in the consciousness of a lot of athletes.
I think it's just a lot of the culture too of the sport.
Yeah.
And I think as you move through the gym, let's say more into like a performance body competition, there's still, I think, some carryover of like fear against carbohydrates. But those guys, they're a little more that carbs are required for performance.
Right.
Every now and then you get some guy who's trying to go low carb, and the performance is going to detriment if you're doing 5-6 days a week, sometimes 2 a days.
Right.
So as you increase in training frequency, intensity, duration, all those things, the reliance on carbohydrates starts to go up. And we're back into Krissy's example of, you're probably in 500, 600, 700 grams per day to support those training demands. So they become more important as the intensity and volume goes up.
We talked offline before about like a protein is a protein. But in terms of athletic performance, carbohydrates can come in different forms, right? Because you can get an orange, you can get a synthetic kind of carbohydrate, you can get maltodextrin. There's all these different types of sugars. So I guess I wanted to ask you guys, because we talked about the rate limiting step of getting the jet fuel into the engine so it can power the engine. But what are some carbohydrates that maybe athletes should look for and then they should avoid?
Yeah.
So maybe some basic recommendations. Then we can get kind of more detailed on some things that are in the marketplace.
Yeah.
But like in terms of food, they probably shouldn't have really fibrous carbohydrates, right? If you're going to start a long bike ride or a race.
Right. Yeah. You want to think about the impact on the whole system too. It's not just about there's carbohydrates in this, so I'm going to eat it. You have to think, how's my body going to digest and absorb this and then utilize it? And so when we're going into timing of carbs, simple carbohydrates, the ones that break down, go into the blood sugar really quickly, is going to be best. And you kind of want to do it, thank you, at least an hour before, because you just need time for it to exit the stomach, get into the gut. And then if you're training, the general rule of thumb, of course, we have to think nuances of the intensity, because the higher the intensity, the more carbohydrates we use.
Right.
They're more oxygen efficient. So, and then the longer duration as well, because we're depleting those glycogen stores. So generally, if you're having a moderate to high intensity and or going over 60 minutes, you might want to add in a sports beverage, something that has carbohydrates in it, like our CR7 Drive. It's going to have different types of carbohydrates as well, because when you eat a carbohydrate, it breaks down into glucose, a mono or a one sugar molecule. There's also fructose and galactose. So there's 3 different kinds.
Right.
And they absorb differently. Glucose is going to, on average, correct me if there's new research out there, about 60 grams an hour. It kind of saturates the receptors that pull it in. After that, there just may not be, it just can't, there's not enough doors to let it in.
Right. So can I just, so for the typical athlete, if I'm running, you're not going to want to go beyond that because it'll cause gastric upset. You'll just decrement in performance.
Good point.
Okay.
Yes, because if it goes unabsorbed, then it's just chilling in your gut.
Gotcha.
And then we could have the gut microbiome, those beneficial bacteria. They can feed on it, cause gas, or we could pull water in because you're
cramps.
So it could have some gut side effects. But then if we add in a different type of sugar, like fructose, that is absorbed in a different route. And so you can kind of top off a little bit. And again, this is going to be more for somebody who needs higher carbohydrates during. So this is going to be more ultra endurance, high intensity, or if you need to repair quickly. So if I'm working with somebody who's doing a tournament, a soccer tournament, we'll say, they played a game, they have 1 hour to replete those glycogen stores. Well, we might want to do something with multiple transportable carbohydrates, as they call them. So different sources of carbohydrates. And that's why it can be really beneficial sometimes to have a sports drink instead of having just plain water. You really have to look at what you're putting back in.
That's a great point. John, I know you touched on earlier when we were talking offline, like some of these major milestones, the 2-hour threshold in the marathon, probably some endurance races that you're well versed in. Any new technologies that you want to touch on in terms of carbohydrates and sugar that have like some breakthroughs in the industry in terms of how people, use these different forms? Yeah,
that's good. I mean, we're getting, pretty into like more niche kind of high performance sports, but Krissy's right? You can only top up the glycogen so much. So the carb loading dinner the night before, that only gets you so far. Right. Pro endurance sports is really where like the science is pushing and focusing to fuel these athletes better. And so kind of the idea is if you can get like more jet fuel into the body, you can perform better. And so traditionally it was maybe 60 grams per hour is about what someone was consuming. And then by using glucose and fructose, it was getting to 90 grams per hour. But now these numbers are getting pushed 120. You're seeing some athletes even doing 150 grams per hour.
Wow.
And there's some
That's huge.
kind of unique molecules of glucose that they're not single glucose units, but they're either branched or long chains. One of them is maltodextrin, which is actually a really fantastic fuel. And that was one of the breakthroughs to get higher inputs. And then there's branch forms that you can get even higher. And so this is really one of the drivers of how that 2-hour marathon was broken. Is these guys were eating 120 grams per hour. We're seeing insane power numbers in the cycling, they're called the one-day classics, where probably not possible on just using 60 grams an hour, because these guys are burning, they're doing close to 400 watts, which is probably 1,200, 1,300 calories per hour is what they're burning. Jeez. And so you're going to burn through glycogen in well under 2 hours. And so the only way to sustain those power outputs is by having insane amounts of carbs
that you're able to get in.
That's super niche. I get most people aren't there. I just go back to the average guy at the gym.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Bring us back.
So you can have, if you're going to work out an hour in the gym, water is fine. You could have some electrolytes. We've got there's a new hydration product that Herbalife's coming out with. You could do a little bit of carbohydrates. You could have a lot of carbs. You could even do a little bit of protein, a little bit of carb for a 1-hour gym workout. As you get into more cardio intense things, like a 1-hour run, probably anything, like you said, under 60 minutes, water's fine, maybe some electrolytes. The 1 to 2 hour window, I think that's kind of optional. If you're fasted and you're hungry, maybe some carbs are going to help you out. If you know you've got dinner sitting on the table right when you get back, you could probably not have anything. But if you know you're going to get back and you don't have food, maybe good to have some calories during that under 2 hour. And then anything over 2 hours is probably where you're going to want to start having carbohydrates. And, again, like Krissy said, the greater the intensity and the greater the duration is going to kind of be your volume knob of how much carbohydrates you want to intake.
I think and so I love the jet fuel analogy that the audience is hearing, because I'm thinking a huge jet getting ready to take off. To your point, you're both making this great point. You fuel up the gas tank, and certain elite athletes have a larger gas tank. So you top that off, as you just said, John. But then during flight, for this jet to perform really well, you're going to need some extra fuel. So maybe another jet's going to come in, sort of like the speed at which they can get more fuel into that jet. It's going to really perform. So I like what you guys are going. So, but again, as John, you're bringing it back down to earth. If we're not elite athletes in the Tour de France or running the New York Marathon or whatever, we're most likely just going to be, operating in these basic mechanisms. So very cool. I had a question about
that's the concept of like intra workout. So I think a lot of times in the past, it's your pre, during, post. I think the gym guys, maybe you're doing like a BCAA or some pre-workout. Maybe it's caffeinated. It's going to get the blood flow going. During, I think there was, most gym guys probably aren't doing a whole lot during. And then it was post, get this protein. So I think it's the during context for that gym workout for the guy or girl going to the gym after workout. It's kind of an option play there, whether you have carbs, you don't have carbs. I think you could even have a little bit of protein, even, protein, a little bit of carbs in the workout.
It's not going to hurt a little bit in there.
It's not going to hurt. It's just when you get into the high performance stuff, that's where you don't want to have protein or fiber during, because it's going to slow down that gastric emptying.
Right. I want to ask you both, and I can pitch it to you, Krissy, or either of you, electrolytes. I mean, everyone talks about them like, it's kind of funny. Someone was telling me about a movie the other day. I won't mention the name, but it's like they keep saying in the movie, it's got electrolytes. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? It's
plants, what the plants need.
Right. It's like, but it's great. They need electrolytes. Great. So electrolytes are important. Think about sodium, chloride, magnesium, all these things that are really helping us establish like a chemical gradient in the body. Are those going to interfere? If we know that a large amount of protein and fats can kind of disrupt absorption of glucose, do electrolytes actually affect them, or is that just kind of like different pathway and it's only going to help?
To my knowledge, no, they're not going to affect. Of course, that's assuming you're having an appropriate range, right? You're not having too much.
Massive amount of sodium,
right? Because anytime you introduce a ton of solutes or chemicals, we'll say, into the gut, your body's going to want to dilute that and draw water in. So we really want to try and stay at a certain percentage, which most sports beverages kind of already have that going for it. One thing I do like to think about too, and this might be a little too nerdy, but the way we absorb nutrients, including carbohydrates, are going to be with certain sodium, potassium pumps, or even protein, right? So we need these for so many things, and one of them is simply absorbing the food that we eat. So I do find electrolytes beneficial, and I'm sure we can talk about hydration and electrolytes as well at some point. But I think depending on the time, duration, intensity, all of those things, it can definitely help. And I don't know that there's any science telling us that it's going to inhibit.
Totally agree with you.
Okay.
It's kind of a softball, so because John had mentioned a product pitch. We're talking science and principles of health, wellness, and exercise, nutrition, but he mentioned a product. So a lot of the products that we use and the company produces have carbohydrates with electrolytes.
Yeah.
So I wanted the audience to understand, I get it. I shouldn't be having a huge amount of protein or a huge amount of fats with carbohydrates, but I can have some electrolytes. And so you'll see that on the label often. Yeah. So I wanted people to understand the benefit.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a very non-black and white thinker. So I always think about these like gradients, and people always ask me like, should I take this or this? I'm like, well, it depends. I never really give a straight answer, but again, it's like you got plain water, you're sitting in your office, desk job, plain water, and you start to be a little more active, a little more sweating, maybe some electrolytes, that's sodium, that's going to help replenish some of the water. And then as you get more intensity, duration, et cetera, you're going to have electrolytes and carbohydrates together. And that is a really good pair because you've got these sodium dependent transporters that Krissy was talking about. For electrolytes, you're looking to replace some of the ones that your body's losing. It's predominantly sodium. A lot of sports drinks will add other electrolytes. How essential those are during exercise, I think it's to be debated a little bit, but you'll typically see some calcium, some magnesium, but really it's the sodium is the one that you're after, just because you're losing a lot of it, and it's also the one that's helping draw the blood and dilute the blood to get enough blood volume of going in there. So it's pulling water in. So it's essentially hydrating your blood, your capillaries.
Good point.
I was giggling when John was just mentioning this because he had sent me a social media post last week, a couple weeks ago, about like this influencer talking about sodium good and bad. And it was very funny. It was like a simplified version of because a lot of folks, as to John's point, sitting at their desk for 8 to 10 hours a day are like, I've got to get my electrolytes and my tons of sodium, and they really don't need that much.
But it's after they had, fast food for lunch. So, it's all context dependent.
As we wrap this episode, you guys, any highlights or take-home points that you want to make about carbs? I mean, it's a whole world out there.
Yeah.
A lot of myths. I think you guys have both made the points. There's a vilification people should understand. Different types of athletes have different recommendations. So any take-home points that you guys want to make?
Yeah. Okay. So I always go back to what do I tell my athletes? And one thing that I say all the time is carbs are protein sparing. And so that kind of goes into what John was saying, where if you have too low of carbohydrates, your body needs glucose. It's going to figure it out. And if you have too few carbohydrates, we're going to go to protein, we're going to go to fats, and we're going to find a way to make glucose. So having enough carbohydrates actually is going to help you utilize your protein and also spare your skeletal muscle. So I think that's good context to remember. And I always say that.
I like that. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I love Krissy was like, I have a PhD in moderation. You're telling people to eat moderation, but I mean, it's so true. Like everyone just wants the answer, but it's so context dependent, and it's, I think you just have to match your carbohydrate intake to the type of sport and energy demands, and it's going to change day to day. I just think that person going to the gym, you don't have to avoid all carbs. Keep it modest. Think about you need some carbs, and then as you increase intensity, you need to dial up that carb. And I think it's the groups that like these team sport guys, the motorsports guys, the body competition guys who are probably a little bit carb skittish and they're probably not getting quite enough. And I really think they're going to benefit. They just were a little looser with having some carbohydrates. The endurance guys typically get enough carbs. Like you said, tons. They could probably benefit from protein just by having some shakes and things like that. So.
I like it. I think I'm hearing from both of you, it's nuanced. It's not black and white, and give yourself a little bandwidth and grace and some room to have some carbs. Yeah. But of course, just be sensitive. You don't have to get a 2-liter bottle of soda and down it, right? It's none of that. So cool. Well, it's 3 docs sitting around the table doing the breakdown, talking about principles of nutrition, particularly with this episode, carbohydrates and performance. Thank you, Dr. John Heiss, Dr. Krissy Ladner. I'm Luigi Gratton, the Dr. Luigi Gratton as well, joining you guys. Until the next episode, thank you guys for joining. We're three docs talking about the breakdown.